we're at the Kaks Bar and Podcast studio here, and Johann is part of the company Canadian Northern Lights. Is that the company name?
Ooh, yeah, I like that. So there's Canadian Fiber Optics.
Canadian Fiber Optics.
And our retail brand, this is like marketing 101 you should never do, but we did it. Mm-hmm. Our retail brand is Northern Lights Fiber.
Okay, perfect.
So corporate Canadian Fiber Optics, but our customers actually know us as Northern Lights Fiber.
Okay, yeah. You guys stumbled upon our establishment a couple months ago, and we kind of connected from there. And then Johann basically explained he wants to do a podcast centered around his business, but at the same time have it kind of like merge towards meeting the customers that use your guys' service, and kind of see where the pulse is at with people's understanding of like telecommunications and like the internet and everything like that. I don't know, Johann, I'm just starting to drive this thing here, but then I was going to get at people from your business here to chat away. But
let's get people off the street. And, you need like a sign on the window saying like, come in to talk on a podcast.
Yeah, just jump on.
Like if there was an on-air sign.
Yeah. Oh, I have it right there. There's an on-air sign right there. Yeah.
But then maybe for the future saying like invite
homeless people
now,
in,
like as they're walking by, like come in.
It's like walking.
I have a question.
Be careful what you wish for.
Wait, can they hear us out there right now?
No, not right now. We can set that up. I just take the cord and then put it in there. But yeah. Hey, Johann, just for me again, can you recap who's on your team here?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Actually, so this is Andrew. Okay, Andrew. Andrew's a vendor of ours on the technology side, so he doesn't work for us, but he supports our business and the company he works with, and him has been a big part of a lot of the success we've had in the marketplace. Mm-hmm. We have Bryce. Bryce actually is accountable for all our consumer sales, our residential sales, and we'll maybe talk about what we do as a business, but about 85% of all our sales are homeowners, providing good internet in people's homes, and Bryce is accountable for that. And
just introduce, like, just reintro yourself, and then I'll get a swap out with
sure. Okay. Well. Oh yeah. Oh, there we go. There we go.
Just pop over here.
But okay, and I'm Johann with Canadian Fiber Optics, and with the company specifically now, I'm accountable for business development, sales, and marketing. What's really cool over the growth of our company, I remember, we started the company when we obviously had 0 customers as we started, and with this crazy, bold, audacious idea that we could compete with the incumbent telco, right? And which seems like this crazy idea of like competing with, if you're in the West with TELUS and Shaw, or in the East with Bell and Rogers, right? And like these, typically in the startup scene, you think technology, but you certainly don't think telecom, and you certainly, don't think that you want to compete with TELUS, but we decided we would, and now we started obviously 0 customers, and now we have thousands, and so we kind of have a fun story to tell, and a lot of work left to do, and providing connection to people that actually really, really badly need it. And then we have Zach here. Zach is our small medium business sales manager, so sort of accountable for sales of all our businesses. And if people can think rural businesses, think Main Street, Central Street, right? You got the barber, you got the insurance office, you got the butcher, you got the motel, the hotel, you got the bank, And so in rural communities, connection to homes is just as important, a connection to these small medium businesses, and he's accountable for that funnel and for selling internet and different connection solutions to them.
And then the person to your right. His best friend.
My best friend.
We learned that.
So Natalie, my best friend, my wife, she's been here from the start, I guess, right? And from the kitchen table.
Wait, just the start of the podcast?
Just the start of the podcast. Yeah. Nice. And so actually, I often joke that there's not a nurse in Canada that knows as much about telecommunications and about closing the digital divide as her. And I often don't give her the credit. I just often assume that, much like most consumers, they know very little about the internet. And we're here to change that, right? And so she overhears, obviously, has over the years a lot of conversations with customers with inner workings of our company, and we're a lot more sophisticated now than the kitchen table. But I still do prefer to work at the kitchen table. So,
Yeah, fellas. Yeah, this is a podcast, so everyone can just chime in, say whatever. It's a conversation at the end of the day. But Johann, I'll get the ball rolling with another quick question here. What is the basically, do most people have a firm understanding of what you guys do even after you explain it? Because you just said most people don't even really know how the internet even works, or is this kind of like you have to like re-explain everything every time and kind of start from ground zero, or is your customer base kind of like with it, if you will?
Well, our customers aren't dumb.
Yeah.
they're intelligent people.
Yeah.
Right. But like what we were talking about earlier was the fact that most people haven't been educated by the incumbents, the big names, on the difference between internet and Wi-Fi. You know, the different kinds of, you know, infrastructure that delivers internet.
Yeah. So one analogy I give is like internet speed tests, right? Urban Canadians don't perform internet speed tests. And let me ask you, when was the last time you've done a speed test?
I don't think I've ever done a speed test.
No, like you don't even know probably in your facility here, which is high tech, right? And you're uploading, you're downloading, you have customers here, you have a point of sale machine, you have all this things going on, and you've probably never done a speed test here, right? You've bought a service and you expected it to be as advertised. You've never needed to do one, right? And so urban consumers have an expectation that the service they buy works, and rightfully so, right? It's just like going to the gas station. You prepay for $100 of gas. It clicks off at $100 of gas. That is an expectation that we have. Rural Canadians don't have that same expectation. Rural consumers are doing speed tests dozens of times a month. Their internet's not working and they're confused. Why is it not working? Let me do a speed test. Is something wrong with the network, right? And so, as Zach said, our consumers are not dumb. And I might say, in terms of internet education, rural consumers are much greater understanding of how internet networks work than,
because they have to have that,
Canadians.
you know, education level, that understanding, because it doesn't work for them all the time, or they have to be very, not frugal, I'm struggling to find the right word, but they have to be very intelligent customers in choosing between whoever, because, you know, I was with this guy and it was awful and it didn't work for me. I need to do my research and figure out who the right guy is.
Well, and that's it. Is there is a sense of they're upset with the current service provider, and they're a big company. So if they can't do it, who can?
Well, and speed tests, I mean, studies show that typically you're only running speed tests if you're unhappy.
Yeah.
Something happens, your Netflix freezes up, your Zoom crashes, and you go, oh man, I got to run a speed test. And I mean,
like a Yelp review. How many positive reviews do you get? Like, oh wow, this was exactly as advertised. I had a great experience. No one goes out of their way to share that they had a good experience or it was working as they expected going in. But as soon as it's a bad experience, they're going to let you know. They're going to run a speed test. They're going to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. So I mean, that's what you're finding in the rural areas. They're underserved, so they're not getting the service they need, and that's part of the digital divide, where giving folks in rural communities access to global opportunities, running businesses globally, those kinds of things, and you need bandwidth, you need speed, right, to do that. But here's the thing: you're coming in and taking that off the table, right? I'm expecting that a year down the road of a Northern Lights subscriber, they probably aren't running speed tests anymore. Maybe for fun to go, wow, this is so fast. But now you're doing other things, right? So
we often say the expectation we have as a company, like, so what does good look like? Right. And for us, it's typically they instantly take for granted the services we provide. It kind of reminds me of that Louis C.K. skit about internet on the airplane. Yeah. It's like whatever airline he's on and he's in the air and the guy next to him's all happy. Oh, I get to work on the airplane. Right. And then it was like the first time Wi-Fi was ever offered on this airline. And then halfway through the flight, it stopped working. And the guy was instantly pissed off. Yeah. Right. And his skit is like, well, an hour ago, this did not exist in your brain. It was, But now that you don't have it, you're upset, right? And for,
and he's like, he's like, mother effer, we're flying. This is a miracle.
A miracle, yeah. You're like,
we're in the air.
You've heard of road rage. This is Wi-Fi rage.
Yeah, Wi-Fi rage.
Anger.
Hang on, license that now.
It should function just like your gas and water, right? Like, it should just work.
It should work.
When you turn your tap on, you expect it to have high water pressure. It'll run. It'll be hot. When you turn your heat on, it'll click in within a minute or two.
Absolutely.
When you're downloading something, it'll just download at the rate you want it to.
Yeah, and on that front, we've really seen that shift, right? And everyone talks about it, that COVID brought that to light, but everybody went home to work and realized they didn't have what they needed. And not even just in rural, but it's become an absolute necessity, an absolute requirement for, in this day and age. For sure.
Everybody was thinking about the hardware that they didn't have, right? And think about how long it took to, get a webcam, right? To do a camera like this for a podcast. And, it's back ordered 8 months, says Logitech, because everybody on the planet needs one now, right? But nobody thought about what soft goods did they need to enjoy life, to continue working, to connect with family, right? And I think that's a big one for most of our customers up north. Isn't even the business side and, how does this, affect my bottom line? It's, when was the last time I was able to do a video chat with my grandkids? Because they're an 8-hour drive away, so I can't just on a whim decide, let's go over for dinner, right?
Yeah. Like video chatting. Like I remember talking to a girl in Sturgeon County, half an hour out of Edmonton.
Yeah.
She'd have to drive to McDonald's to upload a PDF over their public Wi-Fi. And even, being that close to an urban population center, there's that much of a disparity between the services provided. And it's crazy.
So are you the only company out in the rural areas now, other than TELUS and Shaw?
Well, not the only. Okay, good question. So, internet to homes or businesses can be delivered in a lot of ways, right? So, the only way we do it is providing like a hardwired fiber connection, and we can acknowledge and know that there's lots of ways to do this, right? Elon Musk has satellites in the sky. Right, and that's a good, viable way.
Works great for people in RVs or like really, really remote locations. Great.
For those who can afford it, right? And so,
true.
Or there's other wireless technologies, right? Different frequencies and different types of technologies that do that. There's different hardwired connections, right? So there's this is kind of not to give a huge history lesson, but the incumbent telephone company would deliver internet on the phone line, right? DSL technology. And even in Calgary, lots of people are still relegated to that.
Around these parts, we say Calgary.
And so then the traditional cable companies found a way to deliver internet over coax, over cable TV, right?
Sorry.
I agree.
I had that for a while.
But they
brutal,
and they're continuing down that path. Out east, they've have mostly adopted fiber and are all overbuilding with fiber, and they haven't really done that out west yet. But so there's lots of ways to do it. We're only doing it with fiber. There's other rural fiber builders, right? I would say, I can say with confidence and a lot of pride that we've kind of we've figured out a way how to do it that aligns with consumer expectations. So like, what's that mean? Well, we want to provide a connection that's affordable, right? So how do you build and have these major infrastructure projects that allow someone to buy an internet for their home or for their daycare or for their butcher shop that is within the realm of their own pocketbook, right? And so we figured that out, right? And
the big dogs aren't they didn't try to get there first. You know what I mean?
Well, they were there first, but it's just kind of rolling along via inertia, right? Like their internet, like the way that they deliver internet to their customers and now our customers, is through what used to be telephone lines, right? It's just old aging infrastructure. It's either copper twisted pair or coax. They put it in the ground years ago and went, oh, hey, we can use this for internet. So there's a huge limitation on that technology, but they just keep going forward.
But why isn't TELUS and Shaw making big like projects out in the field to create fiber optics, just like what you guys.
They haven't needed to. I would argue.
Yeah.
Up until now, it's good enough. Nobody else is there, and they're making that recurring revenue. It's good. What we're finding, and from my standpoint as a vendor, throughout North America, what I'm seeing is organizations like Northern Lights Fiber coming in, doing these great projects for communities. And about a year or two in, 3 years, the big guys are going, okay, we're getting robbed of our recurring revenue. Now they'll come and try to overbuild, or you got Google wanting to do stuff. So I think it'll come back again. They're going to want to build stuff, but by that time, they're already there, established, offering value. Yeah. But they're there. They haven't had to.
Yeah. So. So okay. Well, let me ask you this question. Sort of, you asked us a question. What about the guys who've dominated this market, right? Because our business model is founded on the idea of like, well, can someone like us actually compete with an actual monopoly? Yeah. Yep. And in some cases, even a duopoly, which is sometimes even worse, right? Yes. And so and our idea was like, well, yeah, we can, right? So how do we do that, right? There's lots of ways other players have tried, right? There's different markets to try to use their services and resell it, but our idea was like, we have to build new infrastructure because that's the root of the problem. Mm-hmm. There's no fiber in these places. So we build to the community and we build within the community. And that's kind of like the premise of it. But let me ask you, so what would like, and I don't need, and I don't want this podcast to be about TELUS is bad, Shaw's bad, Rogers is bad. Like this is not that, right? Yeah. But I'll say like, what do you know TELUS for? Oh, shoot, sorry. No, you good.
Yeah, no, I'm actually the worst. I'm off camera.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, come on in. We friendly.
Yeah.
No.
There we go.
I didn't think
there we go
with all these people. But no, Johann. I'm not necessarily the best like consumer for that. Like my when I was like, for instance, when I first bought my place, I just went, okay, do I get Shaw or TELUS? Yeah. Someone was like, get TELUS. I'm like, done. Bang. Yeah. I didn't really take the time to really look into like. What was better and what was not. I just, I was very ignorant like that. And then the only reason why I started switching around was because of exactly what you guys are saying. I was like, oh man, like I couldn't download that fast at one time. Yeah. So then I switched over, but then it's just this back and forth thing, right? But no, like I am in many ways your typical ignorant consumer that probably needs the education.
Well, you're probably promotion hopping, and you've tried out both maybe, and you're like, well, it's a better of two evils.
Well, yeah, and let me ask,
be the price. This.
Yeah, like on in terms of education you've received from your ISPs, have they ever explained the difference between upload and download speeds to you?
No, and to be honest, like a lot of the, like, not to sound too, I'm a colored guy, right? I'm Asian, but like a lot of these guys are foreign, and like they're just not very good at selling me on anything. They just they just overkill the talk on the phone.
They're in a different time zone.
Yeah. All I need to do, all I basically always dumb it down to, okay, what's the numbers like per month, and what am I paying less, paying more for, blah blah, right? And then, but now that I'm actually, to be honest, like even up till, I would say even a year ago, I didn't really understand even what fiber optics was. I didn't understand what was even going on in my building and everything like that. I just used the internet. And that was that.
Yeah. So like when I think of telecom giants in Canada and in the whole world, like these are actual companies I idolize to a large degree, or I can. When they bring out their premium products and services, the services are good, they're fast, they're reliable, they're affordable, right? They can reward loyalty if you bundle packages, and you're like. They do things right, predominantly in our urban markets, and I love that. And our ideology is let's bring that to rural markets, and
closing that digital divide.
Yeah. So let's bring that same type of network, and I might argue ours is better, but that same type of network with the same type of pricing, same type of loyalty, but I'll argue way better customer service. To
local class customer service,
the rural markets, and so when you ask the question like, well, what about the big guys? Like these are big guys. This is almost akin to us developing our own cell phone and saying like we're going to compete with Apple, right? Like if you had that idea, you're like, well, there's Apple, and then there's Samsung, and then there's Nokia, and there's LG. Like, what do you mean you're going to develop like it? And so sometimes like we get a lot of weird looks at what we're doing, right? Because these are monopolies, right? Not even Apple has a monopoly, right? Yeah.
It's also like more than a monopoly. Thank you. When you're dealing with the communities that we are, right? Like, these are people that have dealt with John Deere for 100 years, multi-generational.
Yeah,
they've been
FlexiCoil represent.
There's people with like great grandparents that were with AGT back in the day, right?
Yeah.
Like, these aren't just monopolies. It's not just a why should I switch. It's the way it's always been.
That's it.
So how do you come in and differentiate yourself in that regard as well?
Yeah. So like. It's true.
That's what we have to do.
Right? And so, like, why? Like, do they know about us? I would like to think they know about us now, right?
Yeah, they might not have a year ago, but now it's like enough people.
But so, like, why haven't they done it? And it's why I ask you, like, well, what do you know them about, right? The reality is, like, our industry, just like any other technology base, is rapidly expanding. What's different than us than, say, like the operating system on your cell phone is everything we do is very capital heavy, right? It costs thousands and thousands of dollars for every home we invest in to bring fiber to them, right? And our industry there's this weird hybrid between infrastructure, so think roadways, bridges, utilities, and technology, right? And so the reality is, as technology changes, they chase the customer base that is competitive. And that's in urban centers. And when you think urban centers, there's fiber to the home, right? On the home internet side, there's advancing streaming services, television services, even telephony, which is still hanging on somehow. And they're kicking that can down the road. But then on the flip side, there's mobility networks, right? LTE, 3G, 4G, 5G. And the reality is they have to keep chasing this technology to where their revenue matters, and that's predominantly in urban centers, right? And so it's not that they ignore rural marketplaces. The reality is, for their businesses to continue to survive and be profitable, which we need them to be, they have to compete predominantly in urban centers. So do they know about our company now? Yeah, they do, I think, But, like, are they bothered by it? I don't know. I can't.
Yeah, like
Tony Guerin, the
I think as much success as
their fiber program, he's probably he's not going to listen to this, but he'll is he bothered by it? Well, he's not happy about it, right?
Yeah. But at this point, as much success as we've seen, he's probably indifferent, because when your yearly revenue is measured with a capital B, they're like, oh, well, so what? We lost a few hundred people, to this, small company, right? Because the reality is, we're not taking from just one, we're taking from two or three. And I don't think they're necessarily, having a weekly meeting talking about us.
They're just keeping their eye on you for acquisition.
Exactly.
Well,
just going,
but seriously, in 5 years.
Like juggling that, going, at what point is this hurting us instead of just, we don't care? And that's what sucks about the service that these people in rural communities are receiving, is they go, we don't care. We'll start putting money in when we do care. And that money they put in will either be upgrading the infrastructure to what it should be, or try and buy us out. And that sucks. That's the level of service that they get, is, we don't care. We'll care when it costs us.
Yeah. Well, the reality is, a lot of their earnings calls and reports are based on subscriber counts. Right. So
right.
we've acquired more. Right. We're not as great of success that we've had, and it's been wonderful. We're not quite so big that well, why did you have a dip in it? Earnings. It's not because Zach, Bryce, and Johann at Canadian Fiber Optics did a really good job last quarter, and still we are not the reason. So on the blip, no, we're not on a blip. Now, the regional leadership in the areas where we're focused on, those guys are feeling a pinch on how their individual P&Ls and budgets and revenue are rolling up into the big machine. But is there noise being created? I as confident as I am in this world, I'm not thinking that's happening, right? So,
I think it unlikely for sure.
Yeah.
So, sorry. So, what's some example of like the pricing then for the internet that you guys can provide?
Okay, let me. I love this question, right? So, at your home, not at the business, but at your home, do you know how much your internet bill is? See, I ask you because most people don't know.
Yeah, I think mine is 89 or something.
Okay, and do you know what speed you buy? No. Okay.
Everything works fast.
Okay, yeah.
No.
So
you haven't felt it slow. You haven't had difficulty uploading a document.
I can scroll through Pornhub real fast. No,
yeah. So our packages
Speaking
are
of
also
safe search.
So our packages are also $89, right? And so like our company is founded on this idea is we want to bring modern infrastructure, modern state-of-the-art technology. So there's different internet technology, right? How you get internet to your home, but we use technology across the fiber infrastructure at a price that consumers appreciate, right? And that's like, so a big issue we have is a lot of communities and the people within it and the homeowners and the businesses are like, they actually say, wait, like that can't be true. Like I'm paying, that means you guys are building all this fiber to every home.
You guys are giving us faster for same or cheaper price.
For the same or cheaper, right? Because the crazy thing about bad internet is it's more money. And this is the reality. Wireless internet is notoriously known to be unreliable and slow because it's just the nature of the technology, which means its maintenance costs are higher, which means the price they need to deliver it to is more expensive. And so we come in, and regardless of the technology, we come in offering a price that is less, right? And this is, a lot of people are like, well, why is Elon Musk's Starlink so expensive, right?
Because he's launching those damn things into orbit.
I don't know how much fuel is in that thing. You can build a lot of fiber network for that price tag of
sure, it's liquid hydrogen, but those things, as cheap as they are, because he can recycle them, it's exponentially more expensive to launch satellites up than it is for us to dig fiber.
I wonder how many Teslas he has to build to offset that carbon emission on those.
Tesla is the only reason that SpaceX has continued to operate, because he keeps pulling money out and dumping it in. And,
I shouldn't have asked that question. But
Sorry, Elon. Don't at me on Twitter.
To answer the question, we're very proud that say, okay, we're building all this infrastructure. And what's unique about us is we're not asking the community to pay for it, which is what makes us a bit unique, because even the big telcos have said, we'll come, but you got to pay for it because there's not the commercial viability for us. Smaller companies too have said, we're happy to do it. We have the skill sets, but we don't have the capital or the funding to do it, right? And so we've come in, and it's been a lot of our success is we don't have our hand out asking for money, right? And so a lot of the challenges we had kind of in the earlier as in like last year, right, was like it was kind of too good to be true for a lot of people, right? And so to the extent from a retail perspective in marketing, we're like, well, do we just charge them an installation fee? Would that make them happy? So we did that for a while. For a whole year, we're like, okay, $250 for an install. Right? It's cheaper than Starlink. It's cheaper than everyone else, I guess. We were going to do it for free. We didn't charge your community or the leadership or the tax base to build this. But if it makes you feel more confident for us to charge you more.
Because it feels like it's a real service. It's a real business because they've been trained as consumers that this new good thing, you've really got to pay for it. Nobody's expecting like anything good to come for free 99, right? And we have discerning customers, and they're expecting, okay, if I'm going to change to a different service, I want better for the same price, or I want like the same for less price. Right? Like that's what they want.
It's like me going into a store, and you know this. I've got this over here, and it's half price. Oh, what's wrong with it? Do you have anything full price?
Right? And you don't want to be to add another big company. You don't want to be GoPro either. And GoPros for the last 15 years have been 20% off. Nobody has ever paid full price for a GoPro because it's always 20% off. I still have my
Generation 1 GoPro. It still works. Right. And I like this was in my skydiving days. Snowboarding days. And I was like, I was young, and I bought a GoPro, and
of course,
and I still have it.
The marketing sold you is great marketing.
Are they like GoPro 20 now, or like what?
like 18 or GoPro. I don't know, but yeah,
they're quite remote. Like because I was still in my mindset where like they don't have a screen because mine doesn't have a screen.
Yeah,
you just kind of like aimed.
Yeah, you guesstimate.
It was it, right?
Yeah,
I said like, okay, is that it?
Yeah,
and that's mine. I went to Disneyland. My first family trip to Disneyland. I have 4 kids now, right? But when we had 1 kid. Took Sarah to Disneyland and I had a GoPro and it was just like randomly like the fisheye lens hoped like this should get it
and half the time you missed the shot.
It didn't have an LCD screen, right? So
and then you went home and tried to upload the photos over Wi-Fi and it didn't work.
It didn't work.
Swinging it back in.
An original USB cable.
All the micro USBs garbage. But like you bring that back in, like you don't want to end up on that end of the spectrum either, where people look at you and go, okay, you're the guys that are on sale. You're the guys that are you're building for free and you're never charging full price. Like what? Like this is too good to be true. What's going on?
Do you guys have like a marketing team? Maybe you guys work with, because it sounds like because
do we ever?
Yeah, because it just sounds like look, after hearing all this, now I fully get the full gamut of what you guys do. Because even when we met the first time, Johann, it was like I was still kind of wrapping my head around everything because I was just so not in the loop with the whole subject matter.
Yeah.
But now it's very simple. It's like, no, what you guys are offering is quite literally better in every way. It's just they just don't know much about the internet and that kind of world. So if there's a way to explain it to a dummy kind of, then they will be, you're basically saying like, no, like literally, like, let me help you.
Well, so marketing. Yeah. So when we started, I was marketing, and then we hired Cole, who will be here eventually. Yeah. Right. And it was him and I, and now we have a marketing agency that kind of specializes in broadband internet, but more specifically rural, and they have a small customer base because there's very few people that are doing what we do, right? So fiber, rural, right? Like that's a unique proposition. But they're great. I'd say like for us, our marketing initiatives are largely driven around building trust with the community and educating them on what we're doing. Yeah, it's right? Education one. Yeah. Like how do you make it
education is huge.
The point so well, that's right? Well, and that's part of like, so people are like, well, wait a minute. Like, okay, so you said, okay, I think I understand now. Like this makes sense, right? And okay, so it does make sense, but how have we come along this far if it makes this much sense and our business model is in theory this simple, not to be confused with easy, right? But simple. Why hasn't this been done before, right? And the reality is, there's a lot of confusion around our marketplace, right? Most consumers are like, well, what telcos do is very complicated. Only they can do it, right?
Well, like, and it doesn't help when they market things as pure fiber, and it's not actually fiber optic technology. Yeah. It's just not, right? The waters have been so muddied for so many years, right? People remember the days of, you kind of mentioned it earlier, of Google coming in and going, Google Fiber, we're going to build an entire city on our fiber optic network. The technology was new, there was excitement, it was sexy, it was cool, and it just kind of died off because they're like, way too expensive. People are happy with their copper-based infrastructure, right? And they're not going to buy it from us because it's too expensive, right? And that cycle keeps coming back.
Well, Google has circled back and they're building again. And interesting thing about Google Fiber, and I'm not promoting it, but because there's a whole nother conversation on Google or a Facebook or like that type of network operation owning infrastructure. That's a
faceless, impersonal mega corporation.
The fact they want the content.
So this is the issue. The data transfer and that's a whole nother that's a whole nother conversation. But I'll say, but one really cool thing that Google, and I actually just found this out last week, they haven't changed their pricing in 10 years.
Yep.
Right, like it's actually like what they launched in Kansas City.
Yep,
is still the same pricing they have today.
Giving the Costco hot dog a run for its money.
That's right.
Exactly.
No,
exactly.
But they haven't changed. But what's crazy
IKEA has one too. They're $1. It's really good.
But 10 years ago, there were a lot of fiber builders who failed because the market wasn't ready for it, and they weren't willing to sit on these investments long enough, so they sold off. Now the demand is actually there for it, right?
Like, do you use TikTok a lot or Instagram?
Well, this podcast is going to launch us into TikTok.
Because the reels, I mean, like I can just literally picture these, because there's these amazing reels out there that are on TikTok and Instagram that can get the message across to dummies like me. Like literally, they'll have.
That's if the fun with right, this, actually.
If you find the right guys to chop it, they can really be like, "Hey, this is copper. This is what most people use. This is fiber optics. This is what you should use. We're going to bring fiber optics to the rural area." Like you do it like that, and then somebody's like, "Oh, okay." And like now I understand. Like, and it's like, "Oh, this isn't some kind of rip-off scam thing. Like, switch internet."
Making the education fun and accessible and easy to digest. It's not that people can't understand it, but we want people to be able to, hear the good news, if you will, and then to just think about it for a little bit and go, you know what, like I like the sound of that. I want to investigate
it like the way I understood now, and I live in a rural area, right? Way be going to Canadian fiber optics like in 2 seconds. Like I wouldn't, because it was just before I just didn't. Like I didn't put enough time into learning. Everyone's day is so busy. So if you make it a 30-second reel, which they've done studies on TikTok, like it literally penetrates your mind real quick.
Totally.
And if you get the right little cartoon or whatever with emoji thing, like it literally can make anyone understand it real quick, and then they'll make the switch.
So the technology aspect of telecom is not complicated, but here's what a lot of urban Canadians don't know, including yourself, right? So you have an $89 connection. It's, don't tell me from who, but it's going to be from Shaw Rogers or TELUS, right? Okay. But like what you probably don't know is there's a reseller market in urban areas. You can go to Tech Savvy or Distributel, which is a completely kind of different industry within a marketplace within our industry, but they are mandated by the government. So TELUS and Shaw Rogers are mandated to resell their circuits, the exact same service you have today, to them, and they just resell it to you at a different price, which is probably 20, 30, 40% lower, right? And so you can take that exact same service, that same internet speed, and buy it from Tech Savvy, Distributel. Like there's a long list of resellers, right? These folks don't play in the rural marketplaces either, right? But there is this sense of like, it's not my marketplace, right? And we're focused on closing the digital divide. But like, I could set up a website. We could set up a website of like, who should I buy my internet from? Put in your address. And like, here's truly outside of like Google SEO antics.
Here's the internet version of like PC Part Picker or Edmunds for buying a car. It's like, what service level, what price, what speeds are guaranteed, what's their customer service reviews like, things like that.
But like, here's the crazy thing is, because you said, okay, I bought a place and I got this service, right? And I ask every employee that we hire, who do you buy from, right? Because they're urban here, so we don't serve them, and they'll say TELUS or Shaw or Rogers, and I say why, and they're like, oh, I just like that was just
inertia.
And
it's
so
just what they've been doing for years.
What's interesting is consumers in urban areas actually have dozens of options in theory, right? It's no different than the cell phone market, which consumers are well acquainted with now. You don't have to buy from Bell or Rogers or TELUS. You can buy from Virgin or any other self-serve option up to public mobile, right? Like our daughter, who's paying a $25 fee to the incumbent for just a talk and text plan, and $25 in my world is still dirt cheap, but there's $15 options in the self-serve marketplace that give you data. Right? Like it's crazy, and consumers are acquainted with that. In the mobility world, they're not acquainted with that in the internet to the home world, right? But it exists, and I'm not sure about the mobility world. I think the latest stat I saw is the resellers, we call them, or wholesalers they're different, but the same. I think 7% of the home internet marketplace in Canada is roughly, and most of it is out east, right? Ontario, Quebec. So.
Population
what do you
density.
Think about wholesaling? Have you considered it?
Have I me becoming a wholesaler? No, I like so.
We're going to open our access, if you will.
Well, okay, no, like wholesale on our network.
That's what I mean.
Or us become a wholesaler on someone else's network.
No, you actually wholesale your network.
Oh no, No, no.
I just thought I'd throw it in there. Question. Get interested.
Yeah. So, maybe it's a dumb question, but so Canadian fiber optics, you guys are Canada wide, right? Like,
No.
Oh, no.
But we the Canadian was, the vision of the company, right?
So
and
now is it just Alberta? Or
we're just in Alberta, and like, not that this podcast is like a big launch party, but we will be multi-province.
Okay.
Soonish.
Yeah.
So
Maybe I just don't know. What's the how many homes or what's the potential? How many homes are?
Oh, okay, good. Okay, good.
What's the max?
That's
a
a good question. So
Calgary is 1 million people. So in theory, there's not saying 1 million homes, but
there's half a million homes.
Homes, right?
Yeah.
So
So roughly speaking, it differs from province to province because provincial governments actually have a big influence on telecommunications. Even though it's federally regulated, there's a lot of influence at the provincial level. But right across the board, I would say, so I think it's roughly about 85% of Canadians across the whole country, rural or urban, remote, have access to like what the government defines as a minimum standard, right? And they define that now as 50 megabits download. And we can debate all day long whether that's actually good or not. But with you not even knowing the speed you have in your home, you get something that is better than that. Yeah. I just know that right now. But around 85% of Canadians have access to that. But roughly only I think it's roughly 20% of rural Canadians have access to that. But when you look at province to province, the prairie provinces are the worst. So roughly only about 9% of rural Albertans have that. It's like
farthest from everything else.
2 to 3% of rural Saskatchewanians, which is sad because half of Saskatchewan is rural, and Manitoba is similar, right? And Manitoba is trending in the right direction. Alberta is trending in the right direction. I like to think because of us, and Saskatchewan is stagnant, right?
Like with those numbers, like 50 megabit download and 10 megabit upload, like the way to think about like how much is that? Like the average website, like you go to load on your phone, is like 7 to 10 megabytes, depending on how many photos or if they've got like GIFs or GIFs. They're GIFs on them. It's like 7 to 10. Yeah, it's like 7 to 10 megabytes. A megabyte is 8 times the size of a megabit. So everybody measures internet speed in bits and data you're downloading in bytes. So if you have a 10 megabit internet speed and you're trying to load a 10 megabyte web page, that's going to take you.
You're making this very confusing for us, okay?
I'm making it very confusing. But if you do the math, that's going to take you a while. Like you want your internet speed to be way above the size of the file you're trying to download, because you want that in a couple. I don't want to wait for 30 seconds for something to load on my phone when I'm sitting on my couch trying to solve an argument with a buddy that no, I'm right, let me load the Wikipedia page, right? But if your internet is measured in single digits or double digits even, like that's going to take forever to settle that argument with your buddy, right?
Well, I think the biggest part of the issue is that everyone, and especially like with the way the government standards were placed at the time, it was based on the current capacity and the current demand, right? So when they put that 50 megabit download, 10 megabit upload like requirement in, that was based on already outdated requirements. By the time they pushed that through, by the time they got it through the channels, it was already out of date. I feel like we already, like, that was the biggest hurdle when the incumbents built their infrastructure, was they said, oh, this will scale to demand, but it didn't. And now they're having to come back and rebuild and redevelop and overbuild their infrastructure. But they're not doing so in a way that's future-proofing again, right? They're not being scalable with it. It's not it's not future-proofed and reliable in that regard.
The UN has considered access to the internet, I might be wrong on the date, but they've considered access to the internet a basic human right since 2011, right? Well, and the reality is, and there's like hundreds of thousands of Canadians that by their standards technically don't have access. They do in a roundabout way, but by the Canadian government standards, they're below what they've set, and that's even outdated. So
I would say there's a lot to unpack there, right? Like it's like food is a human right. That doesn't mean everybody gets food, right?
Yeah.
But
not trying to draw false equivalency,
no.
But it is
all important.
It is important.
I'm not saying I love our industry, and I am passionate about it because it provides so much value to people, right? And so, but there is a sense that, when I look at how our industry has been politicized since the pandemic, right? Everyone's working from home. The networks weren't built to be able to support that. What's interesting, and the observation was, so everybody's at home, right? And it was like, well, things got shut down in February, March, right? It was cold out. Well, guess what? Like, power grid still worked. Gas network still worked. Our houses were still heated, right? Every other utility worked, right? Why? Well, because long ago, people had the vision to, like, we need to build capacity into this system. That is why your house, our house, it's electrical code to have a 200 amp breaker. It's not because everyone's drawing 200 amps, right? Not even like the handyman welder in the back shop needs a 200 amp breaker because, but
it's for the impulse load.
At the political level, we're not debating about capacity in these networks. Gas networks, electrical networks, water networks. We all had water during the pandemic, even though everyone was at home. That was never an issue. No one talked about that, but data networks weren't working, right? And then so this is where, like, I get really frustrated with the debate on what is the right number. No, like, it's not the average. It's not the average in 5 years. It's not the average in 10 years, right? Like, the technology, and I guess for context, the investment we make to every home that we connect is a 10 gigabit per second link. All right. And, like, that is, if you look at the average usage of an average Canadian and their internet networks, like, this is going to last for generations. We know that to be true, right? Are there some people who could use 10 gigabits today? Well, maybe if you're mining Bitcoin in your basement and you're a hot, like there's some scenarios that might exist, but the debate that's happening at the political level is, well, 50 megabits download is what our current universal service objective is. That's nonsense, right? And they're like, well, we should raise it to 100. No, should raise it to 1,000.
Yeah, because the technology exists and it's commercially viable,
right? It's the same reason that I don't know when 200 amp breakers became electrical code.
Well, it's like anything. It's like a car. Like, why do you need one that has like 500 horsepower or whatever?
It doesn't matter.
Why a handgun? Why do you need one that can be an AR-15?
Yeah.
It's like, dude, if you can make the potential there,
that's
you
it.
can, because someone will inevitably need to use it or we can evolve to use it.
Well, but
you don't think you need abundance until you need it.
Well, yeah. Well, and I use water a lot, right? And I kind of shared on social media our average in our own household, our water usage.
Big time shower guy, huh?
Over a weekend. So there's all these spikes you see because, I don't know, I didn't know this until we were looking at our water bill, right? And we have 3 girls at home, right? I'm like, why is our water bill so high, like this year, but they're coming of age. They like to have long showers, right? But there's big spikes. But if you look at the average, it's low, right? And the way telecom operators have used averages is the way, well, this is all people need.
One of my favorite analogies on, like, the usage, like you said, the spike is, like, if you look at household income or household like power usage, right? It's pretty flat, but it's one of my favorite videos for whatever reason out there on YouTube, and it shows the UK power grid, and they have to divert from dozens of power centers, and it's like specifically like 6:23, because that's the commercial break after the news. And the entire country flips their kettle on for tea.
Boom. and they're big boy kettles because they're using a heck of a lot more voltage than we are.
Every single day they have to reroute power.
Their nuclear power grids are specifically designed for that impulse of
because it goes
tea
from
time.
like 15
tea
to
time in
20%
England
utilization to 90.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. But this,
love it.
But this is it. Like, nobody, like, that's just assumed it's going to work, right? And so
no one thinks about that guy in the seat going, "Oh my God, we need to get power from Germany."
Well, Homer Simpson sitting behind the controls of the power grid, just cranking levers, pressing buttons.
So, like, but the whole idea on averages, and our industry has used this maliciously to not make investments into communities, right? And so the analogy I have is we bath our young kids most nights, every night I'll say, but like, so when we draw a bath, if I just get the average water pressure and volume, it's going to take a long time to fill that up. If it's just average, right? I don't need more than that. I can put the plug in and do that. And
if that's all you've ever had, you wouldn't care.
Yeah. But there, there's talk of abundance. It is important. Yeah. It actually, like, if I can get that bath drawn out faster, I can get Joe in there, wash him up, get him dried off, right? Or while he's bathing, I'm helping another one with homework, or like whatever the scenario is. This is good. Yeah. Like, these are good things in our life, or even water pressure. Like it, but we don't manage utilities based on average usage. Mm-hmm. We manage them based on peak loads, like the kettle's at 623, right? This is important, right? And data usage is the same way. Mm-hmm. When people need or want to work or be entertained or whatever it is, these are really, really important things. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like there's a bit of like almost like a philosophy angle to this topic, because if you go to like a communist country, for instance, right, their government would dictate, okay, everyone needs to be off the internet at 9 p.m. and between 7 to 9, you're only watching engineering videos instead of whatever. Like, but with places that have like a freedom to it, like free market, like ability to create abundance, that's where like creativity comes from.
Absolutely,
you need to allow abundance so that creativity can happen. I mean, if everyone's like, for instance, like the bath analogy, like in the morning, if I have high pressure water, I can get showered in 5 seconds, versus like low water coming out and then I'm late
shower
for work,
in front of a fire hose.
There's all sorts of crazy health objectives out of having good, clean, and abundance of clean water. Yeah. Like, we live longer because of that. It's just not so I can bath my kid quicker. Yeah. But that's just an example, right?
So. Yeah. But I'm just basically saying like the speed of the internet thing. It's like, no, like it should be unlimited. Like, because again,
fast and unlimited.
It will lead to more creativity and more innovation. But there seems to be this like stagnant mindset, this non-abundance mindset happening. And I don't know, and it kind of segues into some political philosophy talk. It seems like it cuts into like everything.
Yeah, like charging for data limits. Like, why would we don't, but why would anyone ever go, you know what? You've got 4 kids at home and you're working from home, one of you at least. We're going to set your limit so you can use 200 gigabytes a month, right? Like in New Zealand and Australia, to my knowledge, that's still the standard. They sell, here's a terabyte a month. You've used too much, pay more or you're throttled back. Why would we ever punish someone for working from home, raising a family, homeschooling their kids, or wanting to learn, right? Well, and I'm taking an online class from University of Alberta, but I live in Wembley. Like, why would we punish someone for that?
It's almost ironic. It's almost like you're discouraging someone from using your service.
Yeah, well, totally. But here's the thing. I can make all sorts of analogies on why we're like a utility, and I've been talking like that for the last half hour, and I usually don't talk like that. I actually don't like being referred to as a utility. Yeah. Right. I think we're as important as a utility, not because you can't have internet without electricity. The value stacks on top of each other, right?
Yeah. We are infrastructure the same as they are infrastructure.
We don't, it's important, but there's one big differentiator is we are the only utility that encourages to use more and more and more. Power grids are saying like LED light bulbs. Don't use your air conditioning as much. Gas, right? Like get a smart thermostat.
Download as many games as you can. Watch as many
as possible. Get rid of your gas stove. Get rid of your gas furnace. Go electric.
As far as necessity goes, though, Jimmy Kimmel famously said, "If I had to choose between my water and my Wi-Fi, I'll drink my pool."
I've been passionate about this forever, and so well over 10 years ago, I managed and led a team of installation technicians, right? And so going into people's homes, and like this was kind of at the time, it was kind of like a fallback job for everybody new we hired, right? And I tried to create some excitement over like, hey, like guess what, guys? Like the internet's really important, and well, this was more than 10 years ago, but like they're like, well, it's about gaming, and Netflix had just come out, so maybe a bit about that. And it was like, no, like we're actually getting to, and like this was before sort of 4G, before 3G, like smart BlackBerry was a thing, But like I was like, hey, we're getting to a time where if you return to your home and the power, like there's nothing working, right? So you get in, who do you call first?
Ghostbusters.
Right?
Yeah.
You know? And I actually said at the time, I was like, well, you're probably not going to call the internet company first.
Yeah.
But we're getting to a point where we're getting that important.
Yeah.
But now we actually are. You get home, as long as your house is warm, power's out, and your internet's not working, there's a high chance that who are you calling first? It might be your internet company before you call the gas company or the power company, right? It might be, right? And so the way because everything else now is now presumed to be working, right? Like you just kind of argue it's good, but like, so what is most prevalent to me? People aren't thinking like, well, let's get the heat on. They might actually be thinking, let's get the Wi-Fi working, right?
So we can watch a movie while we wait for the guy to come and get the heat on.
Now you call the TELUS or Rogers or Shaw, and they're going to be like, well, it's not working because your power's out, right?
Yeah.
So get your like your light, no lights are on, or the lights aren't blinking. No, is it plugged in? Yes. Are all your lights off? Yes. You got to call the power company, right? But that's how important we are becoming. Right?
Yeah.
And so like we just encourage more and more use, and that's where we differ big time, right? Where traditional utilities are encouraging less use, and they can do that because they're regulated. Their profits are almost guaranteed, regardless of how much people use or not, right? And so like to manage the grid and to control long-term capital costs, they don't want to build another plant, so they're encouraging people to use less. Right, we're encouraging people to use more and not charging them more on usage. Right. So now a company that does charge usage, when you understand networking, it becomes a lot like why power companies encourage less use. They encourage less use in the summertime because of air conditioners, because the power plant doesn't have enough capacity for everyone to be running their air conditioner at the same time.
Yeah. Well, Southern California is a great example of that, and they do massive surcharges for peak time, peak hours, right? And they set it and they go, all right, we want people to scale back. They also make a lot more money this way, but they want people to scale back and not put the load on the network. So they go, well, what used to cost you $1 now costs you $5 because you're using it at the same time everyone else is trying to use it. Don't plug in your electric car during this window.
But,
right?
But we had that. We see that in Canada too, in Ontario.
Of course,
My girlfriend's sister moved in, and the first thing I told her was, "You can do your laundry before 7 p.m."
Well, that's crazy. But when people meter internet networks, when they charge per usage, right? That's why they do it on the cell phone, is because the internet bandwidth to towers doesn't support that. So you give it 10 gigabit capacity max limit, or 10 gig, because you're discouraging use. And urban Canadians are familiar with that on their cell phone. They're not familiar with that on their home internet network. Rural Canadians are very used to that on both their mobility network and their home network, right? And you only do that for the same reason why the power company discourages air conditioning use or washing your clothes or drying your clothes during the day, because they have limited capacity. Right.
And it's kind of weird. That kind of fits into the two things we talked about earlier. Is, it's the way it's always been, so they expect it to be that way. And then when someone comes in doing it differently, going, no, use as much as you want. It's unlimited. It's free. That's too good to be true.
Yeah. It's, well, and there's it goes back to that. It's less money and you're giving me something way better. Yeah. Right. That was a real problem for us. Who don't trust you.
Still is sometimes.
It still is, right? Well, and like Bryce, Sean, this is a good context. Bryce came up with this promotion idea for the previous 2 months, and it was honestly the best deal of internet in all of Alberta, right? So 3 months free, discounted rate, gigabit speeds. We can go faster, but consumers don't. It just seems excessive to them. It had to have been the best deal in all of Alberta. And like people were like, wait a minute, like what's the catch? Right? And it was like it ended up being a good promo, but it actually what we thought was going to be a marketing success, it worked, sort of the self-serve model, look at the website, click, good to go. it involved a lot of sales engagement, like
it was
human
an
touch.
education success.
Yeah. What do you mean 3 months free?
And a lot of people
like
ask, what's a
only
gigabit?
people in Edmonton get that deal.
Yeah.
Not in Fairview, Alberta. Right? That's an Edmonton deal,
But to be able to drop that asterisk and be like, there's no condition at the bottom.
Yeah, no condition, So that's and guess what? You can use as much as you want.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Like,
we dare you.
What do you mean
use
by
so
unlimited?
much? We have to call you and say, please stop.
Yeah.
Because you can't.
Yeah, that's it. So it's quite exciting. So,
gentlemen, so we're at the 1 hour mark right now.
should we take a pause?
You want to take a pause?
Yeah, let's take a pause.
Yeah, take a pause.